It's the beginning of March, and you know what that means. We have February data in for what our real estate market is doing around the Denver metro area. Are we bouncing back after a lull in the last 9 months that has been, something we haven't seen for the last 10 years? Or are we continuing to drop like a stone? Let's take a deep dive into the numbers so you can make informed decisions whether you're buying, selling, or investing in the Denver metro area. I'm Alex Saldana. Welcome back to our channel about all things Denver. And if you're new here and you're looking for the best information about the Denver metro area, then be sure to subscribe, click that like button, hit the notification so you can be notified anytime we come out with a new video. And we get calls, texts, emails every single day from people locating to or around the Denver metro area, and we absolutely love it. So if you have any questions, be sure to reach out days, nights, weekends. We've got you covered. So the Fed is at it again, raising interest rates by about 0.5% is what is predicted month over month until we get the CPI and inflation under control. So what does that mean for you and the real estate market? Well, as the Fed increases their rate, generally mortgage rates are going to increase as well. And what that does, just like over the last week or two, we had about 0.5% raise in interest rates, and they're sitting around somewhere around 6.6% today, where a week or two ago they were sitting at about 6%. Well, that 0.5 point increase affected your buying power by approximately 10%. So that's a big deal. If you were approved for 600,000, you might only be approved for 550, 540 today. So that's going to affect the buyer pool for each individual price point. So let's just jump right in and find out what's going on in the Denver market over the month of February. So as always, we start with the closed price. Median and average, we can talk about both. And I haven't looked at these numbers yet, so you're going to be seeing my reaction to these numbers real time. Now, back in January, we had kind of a benchmark month. We closed our median home prices in Denver at 520,000. Now, the reason why that's significant is because a year ago in January, the average close price was 525. So that is the first time that real estate prices have dipped down year over year. Because as you listen to the big headlines out there, they typically try to make it seem a little bit fuzzier than maybe it is. And so they can use whatever they want. My favorite quote is figures can't lie, but liars can figure. Well, if year over year you're still up in price, it's easy to say, hey, your real estate prices are still up 1.5%. When in reality, from the peak back in April, I mean, that was 600,000 for the median price in the Denver metro area. Now we're down to 520. I mean, that's an $80,000 reduction, at 15% down since April of 2022. Now, something interesting has happened. We went up to 535 as the median close price. That's up 15,000. So, where were we back in February of 2022? We were sitting at 550. So, we are down year over year for the median price. But let's look at the average price because, if you want to take those statistics, maybe it paints a little bit of a different picture. Let's actually start from the peak. In April of 2022, 712 was the average closed price. And that dropped down to 620. So, $92,000 difference there. That's pretty extreme, 15%. Again, so 2023, January, 620 was the average close price in the Denver metro area compared to a year ago was 603. So we were still showing that we were up in value by a couple of percent year over year. Well, now February of 2023, we're sitting at 638 for the average close price. February 642. Okay. So now you might start seeing the headlines out there because average wise, that's what they were using last month, still saying we were up 1% year over year. Well, now for the average price, we are officially down by a few $1,000s year over year from the average close price in the Denver metro area. So look for those headlines. Okay. Let's go on to supply and demand. New listings. So this chart is roughly 3 years of time. So you can obviously the spikes that come up and down. And the new listings generally peak out in June. That's why I'm such a big advocate of now being the best time to hit the market while we're on this upswing of inventory and more buyers are stepping in. June is not the time you want to list your house because that's when everybody else does. So we can see 2,800 new listings in December of 2022. I think that might be a record, to be honest with you. Let me go back. So we had 2,800 in December of 2022. Ooh, we beat it in 2011. So that was the last time, and we beat it in 2012. So we have to go back darn near a decade to get the amount of new listings to hit the market. And since that time period, I mean, I'd say we probably have 25% more, 28% more population in the Denver metro area. I don't know the stats on how many more houses are available now, but I'm going to imagine it's quite a few more than was available back in 2011 and 2012. But you can see, I mean, 2021 was incredible for the real estate market all around, and they had 4,000 new listings hit in December, where we had 2,800. January, we had 4,500, and in March here, we've got 5,100 approximately. So this is the same trend that happens every single year. And then March, 8,800 last year. So let's see where we hit this year for March. It'll be pretty fascinating to watch. All right, active listings. Active listings have just been trailing down and down and down. So last month we had 8,400, 8,500 active listings on the MLS. As of February, we had just under 7,000. So our supply is still getting eaten up at this time of year, but that's about to change. Number of pending listings. This is what I did like to see. So what's been driving our price decreases lately have been the amount of closed transactions. So in the last couple of years, all the big institutional buyers made up about 20% of all the purchases across the entire US. Well, 2022 happened and interest rates started to go up. All those institutional buyers just put the axe on buying anything else. So we instantly lost 20% of buyers across the entire United States within about a month or two. So that's a big effect right there. Now, when interest rates virtually doubled in a few weeks to a few months, if you were looking at a $400,000 house, you might now be able to afford 250 to 300 with those interest rate increases. Well, that buyer pool just got kicked in the nuts essentially, and it kicked a lot of people out of the market, and they haven't been able to return because interest rates are still so high. Yes, we've gone down in price, but not enough to get a lot of those buyers back into the market. So when looking at pending listings, we went up to 5,400 from 4,800 back in January. What were we at last year? So last year in January, we had 5,500 go under contract and 5,900. So a little bit lower, but not nearly as much as I actually thought. So that's going to be a good thing. We're down 5 to 10% in properties going under contract since a year ago, which was possibly the craziest market we've ever seen in our lifetime. So I have started to see some multiple offer scenarios out there with the listings that I have on the market. And so the activity has been really good. Now we're not getting crazy 5 to 10% over asking price on some of these houses, but if you're priced aggressively, I'm seeing multiple offers. But when they're priced appropriately, I'm not seeing that sort of activity. We're still seeing good showing activity, but not the crazy multiple offer scenarios. Yet we'll see what March does. Closed listings. This is our driving force. January, we closed 3,300. February, we closed 3,600 in 2023. What was it last year? We closed 4,600 and 5,100. So compared to a year ago in closed properties, we are still down significantly, 35% approximately from what we closed last year. So those are the headlines out there that we see everywhere. It's not too abnormal this time of year to have really low closing numbers, but you can see in order for us to get back to that number of closed listings, at least in January, we've got to go back to approximately 2015. So these are still numbers we have not seen in a very long time, folks. Days in the MLS. So when you put your house on the market, this is the average days on the MLS before it goes under contract, not before it closes and sells, but before it goes under contract. In January, it was 35 days, and in February, we've dropped down to 28 days. Not a lot of stuff is hitting the market. There are still buyers out there, and so until we get a flood of inventory, we're in this kind of nice little balancing zone here. Whereas a seller, you can still get a pretty penny for your property, but as a buyer, you actually have negotiating room because the market has kicked out a lot of buyers in the last 9 months. Month supply of inventory. So the old adage is a balanced market is 4 to 6 months worth of inventory. We haven't seen that since virtually 2012, potentially, with not many people listing their houses for sale because Let's think about it. If you have an interest rate at 3.5%, and you don't have to sell your house, why would you sell it? Right? Why would you move? You'd rather do work to your house, fix it up, make it the house you love, because we may never see those interest rates again. I think rates are going to go down in the next year or two, but that's still a guess. So no one truly knows. So if you have a house in a low interest rate, those people just aren't putting them on the market unless they absolutely have to. So we're down. In January, we were at 1.4 months of inventory, and now we're down to 1.2 months of inventory. Um, so that's a really aggressive, typical seller's market. Um, but it just doesn't necessarily feel like that when you put your house on the market and you have a few showings the first weekend compared to what it's been over the last few years. It still feels, a bit shaky out there. Okay, percentage of closed dollar to list dollar. So what this means is if you put your house on the market, do you close above asking price or below asking price? And you can see the last couple of years we've been closing at 5% over, 4% over asking price come, April, May, June. And that's pretty cyclical as well. Lately, we've been closing under asking price. And I would say that there's one other number here that you guys, as a retail buyer, do not see, and that is the seller concessions. There's no information out there that I know of through Zillow or through Redfin or anybody else that is public knowledge. But what we're seeing on the sales side is lots of seller concessions to buy rates down to help the buyers for closing costs so they have more money in their pocket. But I would say on average, out of the last 8 that we've sold in the last 4 or 5 months, we've averaged, anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 in seller concessions. So that could be another 2 to 5% of the list price that is being given to the buyer that these stats do not show. Okay. So in February, we kind of closed around asking price. In January, we were down just a couple of percent. That feels really odd. Like I feel like it was much, much lower than that, tracking the market extremely closely, but these are just statistics. The amount of showings to go pending per listing. Now, in February, we dropped down to 11 from 12 showings per listing. So if you're on the market, on average, as long as you're not overpriced, in 12 showings, you probably should be under contract. And then showings per listing, and we're starting to spike up. So back in the winter months, late fall, we were getting 4 or 5 showings per listing on the MLS, and we have spiked up to 9. So right now, if it's taking about 12 showings to go under contract, we're getting 9 showings a month. Well, it should take maybe a little bit over a month on average to go under contract. So even if you are considering selling, what I'm going to tell you is now is the best time to put your house on the market. Why? Because you want to play the supply and demand game. And if you want me to prove this to you on the buyer activity in March, let's go back for a maximum timeline and see. This is the amount of showings per listing. And good Lord, 2021 and 2022 were just wild years that we're getting 18 to 19 showings per month per property on the MLS. That's just nuts. And we've dropped way down 4 to 5. Now we're up to 9. But let's look back in time here and see when the most activity is when you put your house on the market. So back in 2020, February was the high. March, it dipped down, but gosh, that's when COVID hit. 2019, March was the high. 2018, March was the high. 2017, April was the high. 2016, March was the high. Like you get in the trend here. March has some of the least amount of inventory that we have on the market, yet it has some of the best showing traffic. So don't give me a call in May like everybody else and says, hey, I'm getting ready to sell my house. Let's get it on in June, because you've heard your entire life that summer is the best time to sell. That's when everybody else does it. Our inventory is going to more than double from now until about the middle of June. So my number one suggestion is to get all your stuff, put into pods, call them, get it all into storage, get your house on the market now while activity is high. Go find yourself a short-term rental, go enjoy yourself with someone else's stuff, and get your house under contract, get it closed, because right now is the highest dollar amount you are going to make on it for the next 9 months, okay? Let me say that again. If you sell now, from now over the next 2 months, you are going to get more money than you will for the rest of the year. So get your house sold, then start the buying process come June, July, and August. You're going to have more to pick from and you're going to get a better deal. And if you're interested in more stats about the Denver metro market, check out this video here and we're going to go over a lot of stats, lifestyle, affordability for the Denver market. And until the next time, happy housing.